Welcome to the College Application Workshops presented by the University of Notre Dame Undergraduate Admissions Counseling staff and team. We're thrilled to have you here, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. If you have any questions during the presentation, we encourage you to ask those questions in the chat. We'll answer your questions during the Q&A portion of the session. Thanks for being here. We'll get started in just a few moments.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us for the inaugural session here of this year's College Application Workshops this week, hosted by the Undergraduate Admissions Office here at the University of Notre Dame. We really do, again, appreciate you all taking some time to join us. We're going to go through the schedule of events, what today will look like, what the rest of the week will look like in just a moment. But just to introduce ourselves briefly, my name is Brendan Corsones. I am an Associate Director of Admissions here in the office.
Hi everyone, I'm Montana Curvin, admissions counselor here.
Excellent. And Montana and I are actually both Notre Dame alums as well, in addition to working in the admissions office here as well. So certainly very excited to be presenting a little bit more about the college search process with you. So you can see here, we did kind of, with this being the first session, want to talk to you a little bit about how the week is going to go. So you're going to see we're doing a whole series of these different workshops throughout the week, every day from 4 to 4:45 p.m. Eastern time, covering different topics related to college admissions and the college search process. Starting today, talking about college search and finding the right fit. We're going to be talking tomorrow a bit about preparing your application, a few different aspects of what goes into building the best application for you. On Wednesday, specific section about crafting the perfect college essay, which is always a very popular one that we do during this series of workshops. And then on Thursday, we'll close it out with financing your college education. So covering a lot of these different topics, and certainly we'd encourage you to attend as many of these as you can. But if you do miss any of these topics, we are going to be posting the recordings on our admissions website afterwards as well. So if you have to miss one or multiple, don't worry about it. You are going to have a chance to get caught up a little bit later on. So getting into our topic today, because you will notice that when we're looking at the different kind of workshops that we're going to be putting on this week, a good number of them are concerning we're going to be evaluating your application. And certainly there is evaluating going on from our side of the desk. But remember that throughout this process, the college search process, you're also going to be evaluating us throughout that as well too. You are really going to be determining how are you going to find the right fit and the best match for you during the college search process. So today, Montana and I are not here to tell you what is the best college for you. We really don't know that. And I would also kind of shy away from thinking that there is such thing as a best college, because there really is just the best college for you as an individual that is really going to allow you to thrive both in and outside of the classroom. So I think how we're really kind of going to be going through this session today is we're going to be taking you the sort of questions to ask, the sort of things to consider when you are going to be finding that right match for you. So just to frame our topic of conversation a little bit today, so we're going to go through those different factors, but we'll make sure to save time at the end to also answer your questions. I thought I would have to explain how to send messages in the chat, but you all seem to be picking up on that pretty quickly, I would say. But as a reminder, you can send in questions from the chat, and we'll do our best to address many of those at the end once we get through our presentation. But I'll pass it off to Montana to get us started here.
Yeah, so one of the first topics we can talk about considering is location and institutional attributes. So location, access from campus to home, like how close maybe do you want to be from your hometown? My parents would always make the joke when I was going to college, like, please be one plane flight away. So if that is your parents and that's important to you to be kind of maybe close to home or maybe a little farther, maybe one plane flight away or further, kind of figuring out where that is and a good location from you in your hometown. And it's be a different culture maybe if you go far away, and that can also kind of impact some of the culture and the vibe of the place you're going, the school that you attend. Also, urban, suburban, rural, what kind of location do you want to be in? What kind of environment do you want to be in? Another thing to determine. You're not just moving to a university or college, but also that town. So South Bend is kind of mid-sized city city, a smaller city, but if you want to be in Chicago or a bigger city, keep that in mind if you live in an urban environment. Or maybe you want to be, somewhere kind of in the middle of nowhere and maybe the gorgeous mountains and things like that. Wherever you want to go, think about the environment outside of the college campus that you're going to be a part of, the things that gives you access to, public transportation. What do you want to do outside of the campus grounds? That's also super important. And then housing. What does housing look like at your potential institution? And like here at Notre Dame, for example, housing is guaranteed for all 4 years. And our particular housing system is really unique to the culture we create here at Notre Dame. So we have 32 single-sex residence halls, and these kind of become your home on campus for your entire time here. Each hall has their own traditions and chants and colors and t-shirts, and that is really essential to our housing and our student life here at Notre Dame. Another thing maybe to consider is how many students live on campus versus live off campus. So here, for example, 80% of our students live on campus. So is that important to you? Do you want a strong campus hub? Do you want guaranteed housing on campus? Maybe you want a college that offers more opportunities for students to live off campus. Maybe there's apartments near campus where most students go and live. Maybe there's a requirement to live on campus for 3 years, 2 years. So just keep that in mind. What kind of environment do you want to live in that housing situation? Classification institutions, so research institutions, liberal arts, specialized school. What do you want to study? Do you want to pursue that liberal arts or research? So kind of look into what each of these schools kind of specialize, maybe their top majors and things like that. Public, private, religious affiliation. So Notre Dame, for example, we are a research institution. We are religiously affiliated with a Catholic university, and we're a private institution. So keeping all those things in mind as well. And then the student body. So, the undergraduate population size, what is that going to feel like? Do you want big? Do you want small? Do you want, I think Notre Dame, we're kind of mid-sized right here. So there's a little over 2,000 students per class. I think that's big enough where you don't run into the same people every day, but small enough so you see familiar faces all the time. So kind of think about, what do you want that size to be? Representation and inclusion, making sure that you feel, welcome on campus and you feel like you can belong on campus is super important. This is going to be your home for the next 4 years. And then, the average class has a faculty-student ratio. Another one of those things to keep in mind is what is it going to be like when I'm sitting in this classroom? Do I need individualized attention? Do I want bigger lectures? What do I want to get out of my time as a student? So keeping all those things in mind. Maybe not, you don't have a preference for every single one of those, but if you have a preference for 1 and 2, just keep those in mind as you're kind of trying to find the right fit for you. Moving on to campus culture here. So we kind of talked about residence halls and campus life and how housing can really, strongly impact that. So keeping that in mind, you live on campus, off campus, what is important to you? Maybe Greek life, sorority life is maybe valuable to you as well. Other things that contribute to student life, like clubs, activities, athletics, performing arts, service, all these great things. What makes up the campus culture? What opportunities are available to you? So here at Notre Dame, for example, we have over 500 clubs and student organizations. So if you want to do something that's probably already here and you're able to explore what opportunities are available here at Notre Dame and see opportunities and add more to that. Are you looking for maybe a super athletic campus? Just for Notre Dame, for example, we're a D1, athletic teams. We also have the opportunity for people to get involved in club sports and be competitive in club sports, inter-hall sports, intramural sports. You're competing against your peers in other halls or just your friends and groups of friends together. So if you want that opportunity to get involved in sports at all the different levels, that can maybe be of value to you as well. Maybe service is something that's important to you. Service is definitely important to us here at Notre Dame. 80% of our students choose to engage in service. So that's something that's important to you. Look out for those opportunities on different campuses. Ask around. How can you get involved in service at that school in the local area? What support is there? Academic support, financial support, club support. What kind of support systems do you have in place? Cultural organizations and faith organizations. How are you going to feel supported in your identity, here on campus and at all the schools you look for? Where is our support and community for you? I think is super important. And then school spirit, traditions, mission of the university. So all those fun things. So, it's like, football game days here are really big for us and our kind of school spirit and traditions here on campus. We have a lot of traditions surrounding football in general, and just a lot of fun things. But also, I think mission is really valuable when you're trying to find a fit for a university. So don't be afraid to, I think, read a university's mission statement and see what they have to say and what they value. They spend a lot of time writing that, and then kind of review that mission statement and review a university's values and compare it with your own values. Where is there overlap? Where can you find yourself fitting into that place? So that's my best advice in kind of figuring out universities' values. We have a couple that are really important to us, being that force for good in the world, and having education of the mind, the heart, and the spirit. So those are Notre Dame's values. And so try and figure out what a university values. That's what I got. Brendan?
Thanks so much, Montana, for that. And actually, it's kind of funny because Montana and I are kind of representing both coasts here as well, too. We both ended up at school in Indiana, Montana being from California, me being from Vermont. So one plane ride away, though.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
Across the country here. And thanks for sending in all these questions in the chat. I did just want to dispel one myth, because this is one that we always get. Someone asked, is this a recording or are you alive? We are alive. We're not AI. We're real people that are here live doing this presentation here. So Montana did a wonderful job kind of taking you through a lot of things to consider, I think, on campus, outside of the classroom, the area where you are, the living situation. Let's talk a little bit about getting inside the classroom and the learning that is going to come from that classroom experience at the college that you choose here, looking into the curriculum and just choices available to you. So at a basic level, looking at majors and minors, if you kind of have your heart set on wanting to study one particular area, you are going to need to look, certainly, because people are excited that we're real people. You're going to want to see, is this school offering the major that you really want to pursue? I think I would bear in mind that not every school, every major is going to have the exact same name. You are going to want to dig a little bit deeper to see if the program that you want to pursue is being offered. But certainly, if you have a career, if you have a plan after graduation, you want to make sure that there is going to be a combination of majors and minors that are available for you to pursue at your school of choice. But also, a lot of people don't know what they want to study when they come to college. They might be coming in a little bit more open-minded, deciding between different areas. You also want to learn about requirements and flexibility, what that looks like. I don't think we quite knew exactly what we wanted to study when we came to school. So I think we valued entering a college like Notre Dame that has more of a flexible curriculum that will allow you to try a wide variety of different academic subjects before deciding what it is that you want to focus on. But again, maybe you're someone that you know just what you want to study. You want to dive into higher level classes earlier on. You can see if the school is going to match up with those interests of yours as well too. So certainly the flexibility, looking into requirements, like is it going to be an open curriculum where you can truly explore anything? There's no kind of requirements for the classes that you need to take. Here at Notre Dame, we have what's called a core curriculum, so kind of groups of courses that every student will take by the time that they graduate. So looking into the type of curriculum options and flexibility that is going to be right for you certainly would be one thing to be looking into. And then also the classroom experience. A lot of questions like this are, what's the average class size? What does a typical classroom look like? Is it going to be very discussion based, or is it kind of more lecture based or lab based? Are there a lot of good hands-on opportunities for you to be learning inside of the classroom as well too? It really takes all kinds to build that overall academic picture of a university, but a few good things for you to be considering. But certainly outside of the classroom, everyone needs a little bit of help. Everyone needs some academic support, and you want to see what that structure looks like at the universities that you're looking into. The advising structure and access. Do you have the same advisor the whole time at that university? Do you change throughout your time, your 4 years at that college? And just making sure that you do have a strong advisor, that there are tutoring services available. Chances are you are not going to be instantly amazing at every class that you're taking. And I think you want to know, do you have that way of helping you? Are there going to be departments and people you can go to at that university to help you? I think a couple of kind of key metrics to look at when you're discovering how successful students are inside the classroom, looking at a school's retention rate. So by and large, that means what percentage of freshmen come back as sophomores. So what percentage of those matriculated students return to that school during the sophomore year? You want to see what does the retention rate look like at schools, and then metrics regarding student success. But I would say student success, that's going to be defined as what does that look like for you? Like maybe for you, that means what percentage of students are getting jobs after graduation. admission. Maybe it means how many students are involved in research on campus, for instance, or what does the medical school acceptance rate look like for that university, if that's something that you're interested in. So however you would define student success, certainly you're going to want to look up metrics, statistics related to that at the universities that you are most interested in. And then your faculty. So faculty access and support. Are faculty required to hold office hours? How accessible are they for students both in and outside of the classroom? How invested are they in student success? I know certainly at Notre Dame we really pride ourselves on how accessible the faculty are, how much they really care about their students, how they want them to be successful inside and outside of the classroom. But you do want to get to know whether that's talking with faculty members, whether it's going through admissions to understand that better. Certainly, your professors play a really important role in your learning process. So you want to learn about faculty as well. But learning doesn't just take place inside the classroom. Looking into experiential learning opportunities as well, too. Undergraduate research opportunities. So you can solve real world problems related to that academic area. Are those available on campus, off campus? They can help facilitate that. Can you get involved with research as an undergraduate? Maybe at some schools, they have a lot of great labs, but they're reserved for those PhD students. You want to learn, can I get involved in research during my time on campus? Or maybe you're more of an entrepreneur and you're more interested in startup culture, starting your own business. Is the university going to help you to be able to do that? Or providing global learning? What does the study abroad programs look like? Is that popular at the school? Do they offer programs in chosen areas of the world where you may want to go? And not only access, but is funding available as well too, if that's important to you. You might want to look at, your tuition costs going to go up? Is it feasible for me to be able to study abroad at this college? And then I mentioned earlier, certainly if you are kind of interested in pursuing that employment after graduation, what does the internship job placement prospect look like? Do you have a lot of good support for that on campus? So a lot of different ways to learn experientially. And I think it's about defining what does that look like for you, research, internship, study abroad, and is your chosen college going to be able to support those as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on from there about cost and funding, another important thing to keep in mind is the affordability of higher education. So look at a school's need-based financial aid and what they're able to provide to you as an applicant and what information you need to send to them. So making sure you have all the proper paperwork and applications. So for Notre Dame, for example, you're going to submit FAFSA and a CSS profile, and you're going to have to send those, to schools so they can evaluate your need. And then keeping in mind, the ability of the universities, ability to kind of meet that need. So at Notre Dame, for example, we are need blind and committed to meeting 100% of demonstrated need. So that's super important to us to make higher education affordable to all of our students to apply. So keeping that in mind and looking at schools and what percentage of need they're able to meet, how they can help meet your financial need. And then what kind of are those aid packets components? What are they made up of? There's a lot of different ways that financial aid can be comprised. So there's grants and scholarships, which usually money that you don't have to pay back. There's also loans, which you will have to pay back. And then maybe student work study could also be an option where you're able to have a job on campus as a student to help pay for your education. And other kind of packages and support for financial aid. So keep that in mind. See what those packages are comprised of. Things like study abroad, and how is study abroad supported financially? Or is it an additional cost? Does your financial aid carry over when you go abroad? Other scholarships like ROTC scholarships, things like that. So keeping in mind all those other financial things that are involved. And other resources on campus outside of just that need-based financial aid. Other offices for support. So for example, here on campus, we have our Office of Student Enrichment. They help students to, you can apply for funding for things like football home game tickets or winter coats or laptops. So all those other miscellaneous kind of costs that accrue as a student. So keeping those in mind as well, and other financial support systems that a university may have, keeping those in mind as well when you're looking at schools. And the merit scholarships. What merit scholarships does a college offer? Maybe they offer, if you have a certain GPA, you automatically receive a merit scholarship, or certain grades, you automatically receive something. Maybe there's a separate application for merit scholarships you want to look into and apply for. Or maybe it's just part of the application process like it is for us. Every student who applies is automatically considered for merit aid. So keeping all those things in mind when you're looking at these different schools. And then the value of the education, and what do you get out of it? What's like kind of your return on investment, as my dad likes to say. So we talked about undergraduate retention rates. That's kind of, how many freshman students are staying on for a second year and choosing to return for their sophomore year? It's a super important number to see if, first year students are feeling supported at a university. They feel like they can see it through. So looking at that retention rate is a really important number, I think, to look at. Also graduation rates. How many students are graduating on time? Sometimes it's a 5-year program, 4-year program, whatever it is, making sure that most of the students are graduating on time is a super important thing to look at. To make sure there's support systems in place, to make sure, that's an important thing to graduate. It's what you're there for. And then postgraduate outcomes, Brendan already talked about this. What is your postgraduate outcome that can maybe change what you're kind of looking for? So if you want to go to grad school, make sure you're looking at what kind of, the percentage of admission rates for different grad schools, like medical school and law school and things like that. Maybe you want to go into, employment. So looking at what kind of salary ranges, what kind of jobs are students getting, what kind of internships are students getting. That can also be super important to kind of look at that and see where students are headed. And if, they're headed in the direction that you want to go, that can really get an indicator that you're going to also be able to get there. Anything else?
And, I'll go through this information fairly quickly because, again, we are going to have a full session on advice about preparing your application. But certainly as it relates, though, to kind of finding the right fit, the right match for you on the college side, you are going to want to be just kind of doing your research into these universities with what Montana and I talked about, but related to the application as well, too, because the application process is going to be a little bit different for each university that you may be interested in here as well, too. So just kind of figuring out, doing some research, asking questions. How do you apply? What applications are accepted? So some big ones you might hear is like the Common application. For instance, Apply Coalition on SCORE, the QuestBridge application. Many schools like Notre Dame don't really have a preference between the application that you use to apply to us. But the good news is when you finish that application, vast majority of your work is done to a lot of different schools. The Common application, for instance, has over 900 different partner colleges that accept the Common application, but there may be a little bit of extra work to do as well, too. Like we require some supplementary questions that you would be responding to. You don't want to be caught off guard by these. You want to make sure you are aware of the full application requirements and how to apply. And again, what information will you need to provide as well, too. You want to know, again, if there is going to be those kind of supplementary questions. If, for instance, you're applying to like a performing arts or creative arts college, if there's a portfolio required, you want to know all of the materials that you need to send in for a complete application. Definitely, what are the deadlines? And not necessarily just always the deadlines when to apply, but you don't want to, look at a college that you're interested in website and see, oh no, the deadline to apply for a merit scholarship is tomorrow and I haven't started it yet. You definitely want to look into these ahead of time so you can know not only the deadlines to apply, but if there are any particular deadlines for certain programs or scholarships, things like that, you want to be aware of those, looking into that too. And then just again, how do you best share information on the application? And I will go ahead and defer to my colleagues presenting tomorrow because they'll get into a lot more details, I think, how to best kind of present yourself on the application there. But just a few things that you definitely want to be aware of when you're finding the right fit for those colleges and universities to know about their application as well. And so again, this kind of was the very first session here for the beginning of the week with these college application workshops. Just as a reminder that we do have 3 more sessions throughout the week, same time tomorrow, preparing your application. Then we'll have crafting the perfect college essay. And then finally, funding your college education will be the final one there. I know we got a few questions from people about recording the sessions. As a reminder, we are going to be recording this session, all of them throughout the week. Those will be posted on our admissions website. If you missed the beginning of this, anything like that, you are more than welcome to look into that. And for the remainder of our time together, we have about 20 minutes left. I think we did a good job there getting through all of that information. Yeah. We will jump into all of the wonderful questions that you have been sending in the chat here. I'm sorry, there are a lot of you. We're not going to be able to get to all of the questions, but we'll do our best to answer the most. I was taking a few notes, Montana, and I'll actually start with one for you because we got a really good question. We're kind of going through all of this information to consider, to ask. They were kind of saying, what's the best way to find out this information? What are some steps that students can be taking now to learn some of this information here?
Yeah, I think definitely first, stop would always be university's website. I know Usually they'll have kind of a lot of these FAQs and frequently asked questions kind of listed out. So you can kind of get a basic idea of, especially I think, deadlines and admissions names and what they're looking for and requirements. That's all going to be very clearly laid out on a college's website. But even, what programs they have, just take time to explore. Type in, Notre Dame and, chemical engineering, and you'll have like kind of things pop up, and just take time to explore. I think also going to an information session about a university would be super helpful. That's virtually or in person, just getting a chance to hear from college admissions officers about what they're looking for and have them explain the university to you could be super important. If you get the chance to visit, that could also be really great. I think having time, on campus sometimes changes how you feel about a place for sure. Once you're there in the physical space, you get to meet tour guides, so you get to meet current students, they get to show you around things. That can also be a super great way to learn about things. But I think just like your quick Google search is going to pull up a lot of good information for you just right off the bat to get started.
Absolutely. And certainly I would say, once you've kind of been doing your research, looking into the different universities, Montana certainly mentioned visiting is a great opportunity. Although a lot of universities also offer like virtual opportunities as well too, campus tours, information sessions, but also the admissions office is really going to be a tool for you as well too. So once you have kind of, I think, done that 2 minutes of research to look into, you can find the answer yourself. We're always here to help as well too. Certainly never be afraid to email, call different admissions offices. That's really why we're here, to be able to answer your questions. So we're certainly available to you as well too. We got a few questions just kind of about applying to different majors at Notre Dame. Like, do we read applications differently depending on the program that you're applying to? I know I talked a lot about like our flexible curriculum and changing your mind, different majors. This is a very good question, but short answer, by and large, no. We don't read applications differently depending on the intended major that you list on your application. You're not able to list undecided. We do ask you to list an intended major on your application, but we're largely going to be looking at you for admission to Notre Dame on the whole versus into a specific program, really because so many students change their mind when they get here at Notre Dame, and you have to take kind of such a well-rounded curriculum. We want to be confident that you can really study anything at Notre Dame potentially, not just kind of one specific program. But the one kind of caveat that I would add to that would be our Mendoza College of Business. That is the only program that does have a pre-approval process to have a major within the Mendoza College of Business. So if you do list a business major within Mendoza, you have the option to list an alternate intended major as well within a different academic college. And it is possible that you could be admitted to Notre Dame and not be pre-approved for a major in business, because we do have a cap on the number of incoming students that we can pre-approve for that business major. But we would let you know with your acceptance letter whether or not you are pre-approved, so you would know that information up front. But again, Mendoza is the only academic college that has that pre-approval. The rest, College of Arts and Letters, College of Science, College of Engineering, School of Architecture, Keough School of Global Affairs do not have that pre-approval. So anyone can go on to study those when they're here. So that's kind of the reason we don't really enter into specific programs, since we have such a flexible curriculum to be able to study anything. But it's a really good question to ask because other schools won't have the same answer. There are some colleges and universities that do have different acceptance rates based on the program you're applying to, or they have different requirements as well too. So good question to ask there.
Yeah. We have another great question, I think, about like what classes or courses do you really recommend high school students take to prepare for college? And I think one thing to keep in mind for Notre Dame, and I think other, competitive and selective colleges as well, is to take, rigorous coursework with like breadth and depth. So you're gonna want to take, rigorous coursework in all those core areas. So, math, science, English, social science, foreign language. So making sure you're challenging yourself in the classroom is super important. So if you are able to, take AP or IB or dual enrollment courses in those areas, that's really going to help strengthen your application and really, more importantly, prepare you for the rigor of college courses, which is really the ultimate goal. But also, it's a great question because maybe if you're going into something like STEM or engineering, making sure that you've taken the required classes in order to enter into that program. So making sure you're exploring websites, our college website, and seeing what the requirements are. So if you want to enter into engineering, do you need calculus, do you need physics, do you need chemistry? For us, those are all important classes if you want to pursue those majors. So making sure you've checked off those prerequisites is super important.
Absolutely. And just kind of as a brief follow-up to that, I'll kind of do a little twofer here because
Yeah,
Montana's
go for
been talking a lot here. So when Montana mentioned, kind of looking at like the level of academic rigor that a student is pursuing in their curriculum, whatever that looks like at a particular school, whether those classes are, AP, IB, honors, dual enrollment is mentioned. We got a few questions about coming in with credit at Notre Dame. Like, what does that look like? We got a few questions about like dual enrollment or college classes taken during high school. Typically, college classes taken during high school do not translate into credit at Notre Dame. They just have to meet pretty specific circumstances in order to do so. So I wouldn't necessarily expect that college credit you may have earned in high school to translate into credit at Notre Dame. Generally, how students come in with earned credit at Notre Dame would be through like an AP exam score or an IB exam score, something like that generally. But you can work with your first year advisor the summer before your freshman year to understand potentially if that college credit will be accepted. But even if it doesn't translate into credit, as Montana mentioned, still pursuing those challenging courses, that challenging curriculum, it's very much a positive. It's recognized in the admissions process, even if it doesn't directly translate into credit. And then we got a good question because I talked a little bit about understanding like different deadlines, when to apply to a university, but we got a few follow-up questions about like different decision plans that you can apply to. Like someone asked, Notre Dame is restrictive early action. What does that mean? And it's a good question because we're definitely a little bit unique, certainly in the higher education landscape here. So in terms of like when to apply, the decision plans that you'll hear, probably the two most common terms that you would hear would be early action, which is a non-binding process. Basically, you're applying early to that school so you can hear back earlier with your decision. And then you'll hear early decision. Early decision would be a binding process. If you apply to a school under an early decision plan, basically you're signing a contract with that school saying if you're admitted, you are agreeing to go there. You are definitely going there. You're signing on the dotted line and committing to that. So early decision should really be if that school is kind of far and away your first choice, that's where you want to go. Now, there are a few more kind of unique ones like us. What restrictive early action means is that at Notre Dame, we are still early action. So we are non-binding. If you are admitted to Notre Dame, you don't have to come. We hope you do, obviously. We want you to, but you don't have to come if you are admitted. But the restrictive part means that if you apply early to Notre Dame, we ask that you don't apply to any of those binding early decision programs along with us. Now, you can apply to early action schools. You can apply to other restrictive early action schools, just not those binding early decision schools. So that's what restrictive early action means at Notre Dame, but some schools may be different. You may hear about single choice early action where it's non-binding, but that's the only school that you can apply to, for instance. Or you might hear about schools that are rolling admission where there's no set deadline. You can kind of apply whenever your application is ready and receive a decision within a certain time frame after that. So even though generally early action, early decision are the most common, there are kind of more unique decision plans out there, again, like with us, restrictive early action. So you'll want to look into that at your individual colleges you're interested in. And Montana, I'll throw one more actually.
Okay, throw one to me.
We've gotten some questions about test optional. Is Notre Dame test optional, and what does that mean? First.
Great question. Yeah. So we are test optional for the next 2 application cycles. So if you are a current junior or current senior, I guess risings are kind of in the summer, then we'll be test optional when you guys apply. So test optional truly is optional. So if you got your test score back and you saw that number and you felt great about it, you felt like, yay, this reflects all the hard work I put in, this reflects my academic history, that's a great score to submit. And if you, maybe didn't have safe access to a test, you were sick on test day, you didn't get your test score back and feel confident about it, you do not have to submit that to us. You're not going to be penalized for it. It truly is optional whether or not you want to submit that. I try to explain this process, kind of trying to build a puzzle picture together. And we can still see the whole image if that one, puzzle piece is missing. So even if you don't submit that test score to us, we can still kind of see the whole image of your application and who you are as a person. So really, it's up to you whether or not you want to submit it. Some helpful guidelines can be, a school's kind of middle 50%. And that kind of gives you an estimate of, hey, out of all the kids that were admitted to this university, where do the middle 50% of test scores kind of lie, and gives you a sense of where most students in that university fell. Keeping in mind that 25% of students tested higher than that and 25 tested below that. And also that if a school's test optional, chances are that data's kind of skew a little higher. Because if you didn't get a good test score, you're probably not going to submit it. So keeping all those things in mind, but that can kind of be a good guideline to feel, help you feel more confident about whether or not to submit that test score. But you will not be penalized if you do not submit it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a terrific answer there. And certainly, test optional, I know that is something that a lot of students and counselors may still be getting used to a little bit. So it's always a good question to ask how schools are going to be interpreting those scores. We got a question as well, too. I talked about, applying into certain programs, certain majors, but someone asked about double majors. Like, what does that look like? Is that possible to do at Notre Dame? And certainly double majors or taking on like a minor in addition to your major, very doable, very possible. I was a double major myself in political science and also film, television, and theater. So those are both majors within the College of Arts and Letters, kind of the more like liberal arts, humanities type courses at Notre Dame. So that's very possible to do. But even like cross-college double majors are possible for students to do as well too, especially pairing a major in one college with a major in the College of Arts and Letters. So very common to see like business and arts and letters double majors, science and arts and letters. You might even see like science and business or like, global affairs paired with a different major within a different academic college as well too. I'd say the College of Engineering tends to be a little more difficult to do the full double major across colleges because engineering is a little bit more credit intensive, but certainly a lot of engineers will take on minors either within the College of Engineering or within different academic colleges as well too, to make it possible to have that kind of really well-rounded interdisciplinary curriculum by the time that you graduate. So certainly very possible here at Notre Dame. I mentioned earlier about the pre-approval process to do a major in business, but even if you don't have a major within Mendoza, there are great ways to gain business exposure while you're at Notre Dame as well. Like the Mendoza College of Business offers several minors that are available for anyone to be able to pursue. So you can study anything and still be able to minor in like accounting, digital marketing, innovation, entrepreneurship, a few different real estate, a few different areas like that. So really great ways through the double majors, minors, or just through the core curriculum to get a really well-rounded education, really embrace our flexible curriculum here, I would say.
And I'm seeing, I'll just clarify, about, kind of the restrictive early action, talked about it a bit, but what happens, what kind of decisions are possible from that? I seen a couple of questions on that. So if you applied restrictive early action, that deadline is November 1st, and you would find out your decision, mid-December. And that, you could either be, accepted, denied, or deferred. So what deferred means is we're going to push your application to the regular decision round and read it again in the context of all the applicants in the regular decision pool. So we'll get, we'll ask you for another semester of grades. You get a chance to send us a deferral update, letting us know if you're still interested in Notre Dame. Maybe you got accepted to a different university and you, decided to go there. So letting us know, if you're still interested in coming to Notre Dame is great. And so you'll get a chance to send us more material and you reevaluate your application. And then in that regular decision pool, there's, 3 decisions as well, accepted, denied, or waitlisted. And waitlisted is kind of the same thing. You'll get the chance to, send us updated grades, send us a letter of continued interest and things like that. So those are kind of the 3 outcomes that can happen. And I did see early decision mentioned again. We don't have early decision because that's binding. We are non-binding. So whatever, your decision is non-binding here at Notre Dame.
Absolutely. And we've got kind of a few questions about like differences between types of high schools, like high school grading systems. Like someone asked a bit about comparing like a 4.0 scale to a 5.0 scale. Someone said they started their high school abroad and they moved to a different high school, things like that. Important to certainly say that we're always going to take into account your background and the context of your high school and your application when we're making admissions decisions. So that's actually part of the reason, to answer another question, we don't have like an average GPA for an incoming freshman because that could really vary from school to school. Like in one school, the highest GPA in the class could be a 4.3. Somewhere else, it's a 5.2 or it's a 103. It can really change. So we're going to work with the information that your high school provides to us within the context of your school when making admissions decisions. We don't look for like a set GPA or like a certain number of AP or dual enrollment courses because things like GPA, course offerings, those are different from school to school. So we're really going to look at the context of your high school performance. I just think the key is we want to see really strong performance. Typically, it's going to be the top performers that are going to be most competitive in the process with us, whatever that looks like at your school, pursuing the most challenging curriculum available at your school. We really want to see evidence that you've worked with your counselor to put together a schedule every year that's going to challenge you across a variety of different academic areas. So we're not kind of just looking at to take tough classes in one area, but really across all of the core academic areas, math, science, English, social studies, foreign language, that you're really challenging yourselves in an interdisciplinary manner. I would say same thing if you transfer high schools. Don't worry, we see students transfer high schools every year. We admit students that have transferred high schools every year. That background and context is certainly taken into consideration when we're going to be evaluating your application. I would say too, and again, we'll go into more details about this during the session tomorrow, but there are also plenty of opportunities to offer additional explanation on the application. So if there are things that you really want us to know related to the transfer to your high school, through the counselor letter of recommendation, through the school profile, your own writing, there are plenty of ways for us to learn that. Any kind of specifics about you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Take time to explain if there's anything to be explained, or let your counselor know if there's something that's going on, so they can include that in their letter that they write to us. So we know what's going on in your life. That's super important. And all those context things really influence your application in your life. And those are super important. So don't be afraid to put those in there.
So we had a few, Montana, we kind of talked about the experiential learning. Do you want to talk a little bit about how to get involved in research on campus and what that looks like in Notre Dame?
Yeah, it's really simple. It's insanely simple. It's as simple as like emailing a professor that maybe is doing research you want to get involved in and being like, hey, I love what you do. How can I get involved? We are a tier 1 research institution here at Notre Dame, and we also are very undergraduate focused. So it's really cool because a lot of our faculty are conducting their own really cool research, and they want their students to get involved. We had an intern here who just graduated, but she would always tell a story about her very first class at Notre Dame as a first-year student. So the very first hour of being a Notre Dame student, her professor offered her a research position to help him, write his textbook that he was doing for a history course. She ended up not pursuing that. She wasn't interested in history, but the opportunity was there as of day one. So really cool opportunities just here on campus if you want to get involved in labs, in work, in archival stuff, whatever you want to do. There's so much happening here on campus. But outside that, maybe your research question is taking you beyond campus walls, maybe even taking you internationally. There's opportunities to do that as well and receive funding for that. So CUSE, or the Central for Undergraduate Scholarly Engagement, they're there to help students pursue that kind of research and receive grants and funding, and be able to take that even internationally. We have people in our office who, when they were students, one of our colleagues went to Italy to study Romeo and Juliet. So humanities-based research, STEM-based research, whatever you want to do, Notre Dame is so supportive and so excited for our students to pursue those questions, to answer those questions that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And same thing I would say with internships. We got a few questions about that as well too. If that's what you're interested in, kind of gaining that real world experience, our Center for Career Development is really fantastic here on campus. And similar with research, you can start working with them, during freshman year. Even if you're not looking for an internship yet, they can help you with resume review, doing interview prep, networking workshops. We hold, typically during a normal year, we'll have over 500 different employers represented on campus for different job and internship fairs to work with as well. Also, our extensive alumni network is extremely helpful in finding those opportunities too. That's a real advantage with having students come from everywhere to come to Notre Dame. They really end up everywhere, and our alums and alumni clubs across the U.S., around the world, love working with current and former students to give you any help that you may need in terms of finding those opportunities. I see someone just commented that someone's sister is a rising sophomore at Notre Dame and just had an internship with NASA this summer. So very good example. Yeah. You're doing our job for us in the chat. So thanks for that. And I see that we are getting very close to 4:45. So maybe let's do one more question there, and then we'll wrap up here. Montana, did you see a good one?
I feel like there's kind of a fun one to end on. That's what is our personal favorite / unique feature about Notre Dame?
Oh, fun. That's a good one. Well, that's both being alums here. That's certainly a very good question. I think I would highlight the residential life here. I know Montana talked a little bit about that, but especially coming from further away to come to school here, I really love that it felt like from day one, I was entering into a home. I was really being welcomed by a family with open arms, and just everyone at Notre Dame was so eager to meet each other and just make friendships and support one another. I think the residential community, I lived on campus all 4 years. I loved it. I thought that was super special. And I'm still, great friends, best friends with some people that I met my very first day at Notre Dame when I was here moving into the dorms, which was awesome.
Yeah, no, not to steal that, but that's mine as well, is that it feels so special. McGlynn is my home, and the best hall on campus, honestly. So it's such a unique place. You really meet a family here on campus. I think the community is something that Notre Dame does so well. It's more than a community, but a family. So I have to, copy what you said, echo what you said. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, we have reached the end here. Again, I am sorry that we're not able to get to all of the questions. We were very pleased to have such a robust conversation going on in the chat, but there will be plenty more opportunities throughout the week for you to ask your questions, learn a lot more about Notre Dame and just about the college application process in general. We look forward to seeing you all then. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, guys.